Hello, good evening, and welcome to Prog Chattery 777. We've been talking about the music of Kate Bush, and we've made it to her sixth album. This is the Sensual World, released in 1989. It's quite a good record. I don't think it's on the same level as some of her earlier efforts. Never Forever, The Dreaming, Hounds of Love, I think are stronger releases than this one. But it has got a great collection of songs on it. It may be the more commercial release. I think it's certainly less experimental than Hounds of Love or The Dreaming. But like I said, there's some compelling pieces on here, and it shows that she's moving forward, right? She's not, she didn't want to just be settled on the quirky songwriter kind of a thing, right? She's exploring her songwriting, and she's going into a different direction. Um, Quite interesting. I think the production is one of the issues with the album. I think actually, it it has more of a dated '80s sound to it, which is unusual because I think she was actually going for a more organic sound. I think she was trying to get more acoustic instruments in there and make it sound a little more rich and realistic. But being as it was in 1989, recording studios were just the way they were, right? Those are the trends of recording at the time. So, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly why, but it does feel more like a product of the 80s than Hounds of Love. Of course, later she would go on to acknowledge this by releasing an album in 2011 called Director's Cut. And she took a few songs from this album and a few songs from the next album, The Red Shoes, and she took the backing tracks from these albums and re-recorded new vocals, put some new embellishments, kind of took away a few things, just so she could kind of update the sound on some of those tracks. Because like I said, there's some very strong material on here, and on The Red Shoes as well. But I don't think the production really allows a lot of the songs to come out and breathe and make themselves known to the listener. It is another self-produced record, obviously. Again, we've got a huge, huge cast of characters as far as the musicians are concerned. Del Palmer, of course, is returning on the bass. And a very notable contribution to this album is the trio Bulgarka, or the Bulgarian folk trio, as they're known. They're a group of singers, and they contribute to a number of tracks on this album, and they really, really have a positive effect on the tracks. They're fantastic, fantastic performances. So yeah, let's talk about the tracks then, shall we? Side 1 opens with the title track, The Sensual World. This is one of my favorite Kate Bush songs, actually. Originally, it was to be titled Flower of the Mountain, and it was based on Ulysses. I should know how to pronounce that. And she couldn't get the publishing rights at the time, but in 2011, when she re-recorded the song, she did get the publishing rights, and the lyrics and the title of the song were reverted back to their original intention. But it is a wonderful song. It is continuing on her theme of the topic of sexuality, and it's just brilliant. It really is a celebration of the experience, and it's not smutty, or it's not it's not dirty or anything. It's a very literary, intelligent celebration of sex is what it is, and I just love it. It's a wonderful piece. Kind of has that Celtic flavor again. I love the violin melody that runs through it. It's spectacular. There's a great video. She made lots of great videos for this song, where she's just kind of whimsically moving about through the forest. That's always kind of been a mental image I've had of Kate Bush. Is from the Sensual World video for whatever reason. Magical stuff. Track 2 is Love and Anger. And this, I think, is quite typical of the album, and it really shows the organic direction that she was trying to go for. There is a distinct kind of folky element to it. I think the mandolin plays a pretty prominent role, at least for the verses of the song anyway. A couple of great guitar bursts that come in there that illustrate the fantastic chorus. Her vocals just soar. Um, Also worth mentioning on the Sensual World, the first song, her vocals are just fantastic. Very, very, she's not shouty. It's very low key, very breathy, which serves to illustrate the song. But we've already talked about that. Back to track two, Love and Anger. Um, like I said, really, really good song. Essentially, it's a pop song with these acoustic elements, that are kind of added. Doesn't sound super 80s. This one is probably less susceptible to that. But it is a great song, and it's an album track, right? It moves the album along, and it's necessary. Not the greatest thing she's ever done, but I like it. I do like the song. Track three is The Fog. And this is probably one of my favorites on the album, actually. I was kind of surprised and maybe even a little bit disappointed that The Fog wasn't included on the director's cut, because I think it's a fantastic song. Uh, it goes along with the theme of innocence and growing up, maybe loss of innocence with The Fog. Some really, really haunting moments there, the day I learned to swim, and she sings with great drama. There's some great orchestral stuff that comes in that really illustrates it as well. The voices are back, that were present on Hounds of Love and the Dreaming. That line, just lay your head down, child. You're all grown up now. And again, it's one of those things where I listened to the song and I was into this album at just the right age when I was all grown up now, and it's one of those things that had one of those lasting impressions. I've always really, really loved The Fog. Other than my own personal connotations, I'm not really sure what it's about specifically. It could be based on a film. Probably is. I'm sure you'll correct me in the comments. Please do. But yeah, I really, really like The Fog. One of my favorites on the album. Track four, we get Reaching Out. Another well orchestrated piece. I really, really like it. One of her bigger vocal performances on the album, I think. Just in terms of dramatic, operatic kind of vibes. That's really, really cool. Reaching out for mama. It's fantastic. I love that chorus. I really like the lyrics in that chorus. Reaching out for the hand that smacked, reaching out for the hand to hold, reaching out for the star, reaching out for the star that explodes. There's a bit of repetition in there, I guess, but there's great drama, and again, the way that she sings it, that reaching out for the star that explodes is fantastic. Um, it's characterized. The song too is characterized by the kind of quiet intro, and then that chorus, it just explodes, which is fantastic. Really like that. Track five that closes out side one. Heads Were Dancing. This is quite a good song. I think this is probably the one that's most guilty of being 80s ridden. There's a lot of 80s-ness to Heads Were Dancing. But it's still a good song. It's one of the rockier numbers on the album, one of the more high-energy pieces. Lyrically, it's got the interesting concept of a woman who's out on the dance floor, and she has this wonderful night with this charming man, who turns out to be Hitler. She finds out the next day that Hitler was at this this ballroom party, and she didn't recognize him, or something along those lines. I think that's the lyrical side of it. Really weird vocal performance. I'm not really sure if she's doing that or if there's an effect on her voice. That heads were done. She almost like shake. There's a shakiness to her voice in that chorus. I've always wondered. I'm not sure if that's a vocal processor or if she's just singing that way. Obviously she's known for her dramatic singing style, so she could well be doing that all on her own. But it's a cool song. Then we flip the album over, side two, and we get Deeper Understanding. This is another one of the significant songs on the album, I think. This is one that she did re-record for Director's Cut in 2011. And quite a prophetic song, really, Deeper Understanding. lyrically, we're dealing with someone who's gotten obsessed with a new program that they've ordered from a magazine, and I think it's referencing, obviously referencing computer programming, but this is 1989. This is before the internet, was a public thing, before we were all so dependent on technology and dependent on the internet. That's really what the song's about, is seeking technology instead of seeking friends and relations. I think that's kind of the general idea. And relying on technology is a crutch and a comfort. And like I said, it's 1989 she wrote this, and that's quite prophetic, because I think what we're seeing in today's world, which for all its pluses and minuses, plus one thing, you get to watch me talk about albums. um, but we are very reliant on technology, and I think that's very interesting how she caught on to that so early on. Um, Musically, it's really good, very melancholy, very kind of subdued and quiet. Um, and we get the Bulgarian folk trio doing a phenomenal vocal performance on this track. It is absolutely lovely. Um, and then they were retained, of course, for the director's cut release. Obviously, I mean, it sounds amazing what they do. So yeah, Deeper Understanding is a really really good song, but the director's cut version is much better. Then the next song, track two of side two, is Between a Man and a Woman. This might be the lesser song on the album for me. It's kind of like an album track. I feel it's there's similarities both lyrically and musically, I think, with Love and the Anger, with Love and Anger. But I think Love and Anger delivers the message loud and clear and very successfully on the first side, and the second side it's kind of just it might feel a little bit formulaic. That might sound too critical, but um, it's still good. There's a good drama to it. It's probably a little bit more on the darker side than Love and Anger. Love and Anger's got there's a ray of hope to that song, whereas Between a Man and a Woman is a little bit more it's looking on the darker side of things. Then track three of side two. This is one of my favorite Kate Bush ballads. This is this is a heartbreaker. This one, Never Be Mine. Um, and again, it's almost difficult to talk about the version on this album, because I think the version on Director's Cut is just far superior. But this version is still really really good. Um, yeah, and yeah, never be mine. Yeah, that's a tough one to talk about. That's one of the songs that really hits you. It's a powerful, powerful love song. Dealing with loss, breakup, moving on. That whole deal. Um, but yeah, all I can really say for sure about that is that the director's cut version I think is far superior, and that it is one of my absolute favorite Kate Bush songs. Very powerful song for me. Um, and then we move on to track four of side two, which is a contender for my favorite song on the album, Rocket's Tail. I absolutely love this song. We get David Gilmour from Pink Floyd contribute some guitar, which is really, really nice. But the song opens up with the Bulgarian folk trio, um, and it's magnificent. And Kate is singing over top of the trio, and it's just a phenomenal sound. And we get this great kind of folky swing to it. And again, it really highlights the Bulgarian singers. Um, it is utterly fantastic. And then when the song finally kicks in and drops, and when we get Gilmour's guitar solo, it's just absolutely stellar. And the whole arrangement comes in, the whole band's playing. We get the big heavy production, and uh, the folk singers are there in the mix, and Kate's over top of it. It is just a stellar moment. It really really kicks you in the ass, for lack of a better word. I really love Rocket's Tail. And then when the vocals come in at the back, and she does all of her quirky, weird, eccentric stuff, the yeah 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 yeah, that's just, oh, it's the best. It is life affirming stuff. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. I love that moment. Yeah, Rocket's Tail, probably one of my favorites on the album. Certainly the heaviest on the album. It's probably got the most energy to it. Um, and it would be a really really good closer, but we finish off with This Woman's Work, uh, which is ends the album on a quiet note, but it is again, there's a profoundness to a lot of her work. Um, it is this woman's work is an essential song, certainly very well known song by Kate. It is very subdued. It is, basically we just get Kate at the piano and the vocals over top. It was written for a film called She's Having a Baby. I did my research this time. I did do my research, and the song's actually written. It's dealing with facing complications of childbirth and whatnot. That's kind of the central theme. And I actually never knew this, but it's actually sung from the man's perspective, and what's going through the man's mind as the couple together are bracing for potential challenges regarding childbirth. So heavy stuff, typical of Kate. She's she likes her heavy subject matter, but she's able to convey a lot of these concepts, like I've said before, with a great emotional intelligence, and there's a great melodrama to all of her albums, all of her songs, all of her work, which just makes it a very special thing. The other thing I was going to mention about this that I forgot, I'm glad I just remembered in the moment, is that the title track "Sensual World" is one case where I think I like the original, I like the version on this album more than I like the director's cut version. I might be crazy, but I think they're very close. The director's cut is a fantastic, fantastic album. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there. So there you have it. That is The Sensual World by Kate Bush. We're moving on next time into the 90s, where we will be discussing The Red Shoes, which is the other album that had some tracks taken and redone for director's cut. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Send me a like, send me a subscribe, comments, all that fun stuff, and we will see you next time for The Red Shoes. Take care.